Talofa koe, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. E haere ake nei, Vanuatu has another new Prime Minister. Also,
enlightening and elaborating the history of where we truly come from.
Coming to a screen near you is a Polynesian anime show. And later, a weaving business with roots in Tuvalu and Kiribati resonates with local women in Fiji. But first, Shalo Salwai has been elected Prime Minister of Vanuatu with 29 votes in the absence of all members on the other side of the House. The now opposition MPs had staged a walkout at the beginning of this afternoon's sitting, having unsuccessfully argued against its validity. Don Wiseman has more.
In his acceptance speech, Shalo Salwai apologised to the Vanuatu public for the ongoing political crises, which have seen 4 prime ministers elected in the space of 3 years. He also thanked police for keeping the peace and thanked citizens for respecting the law and each other. It's unlikely this will be the end of political instability, as members on the other side of the House had indicated they'd challenged the legality of this afternoon's proceedings in court. Mr Salwai was previously Prime Minister for 5 years to 2020.
New Caledonia's nickel industry is again facing a crisis, with the main shareholder in one of the territory's 3 mines threatening to pull its funding. Swiss-based mining company Glencore says it intends to stop financing the Koniambo nickel operation in the northern province by the end of February 2024 if a new financing solution isn't found. This comes after the French government's finance ministry last month released an alarming report of New Caledonia's nickel industry, stressing the need for a major reform of the sector. Patrick de Cloyter on RNZ's French Pacific desk has been following developments. He spoke with Kuroi Hawkins.
Nickel industry in New Caledonia has always been a controversial subject, even though it's also providing a lot of wealth for New Caledonia, because New Caledonia is the 5th world nickel producer. It's obviously not negligible. Now, the most recent development that we've seen on the nickel front in New Caledonia is that for at least one of its plants and mines, which is the Koniambo mine in New Caledonia's north of the main island, the current major stakeholder and financier, which is an Anglo-Swiss company, Glencore, and it owns about 49% of the capital. And it said that it intends to stop financing that plant, the operations, at the end of February 2024, if no financing solution is found. What you have to bear in mind is that Koniambo and the company that operates it has never really been profitable. It was put into service in 2014, but it's never been profitable. It employs about 1,300 employees, and the accumulated debt to date is something of about $14 billion. Even on the past 2 years only, the losses were about $2 billion. So the big question now is whether the company will be allowed to continue operation. The company says it has the funds to keep it running for the next 5 months, and the company in New Caledonia is always also maintaining that it's already started necessary reforms to make it more cost efficient.
Obviously, we saw a crisis in the nickel sector in New Caledonia with the downturn in resource prices, but this has now seen a change in terms of the demand, as you say, for e-vehicle batteries and that. So that on the commodity side of things, it's looking good. But what is this?
Well, that's the paradox of the situation of the nickel in New Caledonia, because the world situation is very favorable to there is a high higher and higher demand for nickel on the world scene, with car constructors doing that transition to electric vehicles. So they need a lot of those batteries. And one of the main components of these batteries is nickel. But there was a report, like an audit, that came out on the 1st of August by the French government and its finance department about nickel in New Caledonia. And that assessment actually came out just about the same time as French President Macron was in New Caledonia. And it basically said that for all those companies operating in New Caledonia, the situation was not really satisfactory, not good. The production was not adapted to those emerging markets we were just talking about. There was not enough competitiveness, and there was also a high cost of labor, and those industries were actually not energy efficient.
And so in terms of next steps on this current situation, it'll be more toing and froing between the French government, the company, and stakeholders. Is that where we're sitting right now?
There will be some developments very soon, in fact, Koroy, because if we listen to the company, Glencore, this major financier, they will meet very shortly with their shareholders, like at the middle of October, to decide what to do with Koniambo. And one possibility that they're already contemplating is to, so to speak, snooze the production, put it in pause for an unspecified duration. But then that again has to be endorsed by this shareholders meeting. And a more radical scenario would be that they decide altogether that Glencore completely withdraws from Koniambo and they sell the shares. I don't think it's very likely, because in the view of the current nickel market condition on a global basis, no company wants to get rid of this kind of resources.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, Korai.
Okay. Ale.
Ale tata.
Saimone Katoa, who's of Tongan and Samoan descent, is producing a first-of-its-kind Polynesian anime exploring voyaging legends of the Pacific. The pilot episode is set to be released by the end of the year. Tiana Haxton has been following his production online and spoke with the writer himself.
Don't let the rocks fly up. He's facing the sun, right? So he's staring the sun down as he does this, and you can see him staring it down. Bash, all the stuff flies up.
The Kotoa o Tua or KTO anime team comprises of Katoa's brother and cousins. They began recording the pilot episode in August this year after a decade of brainstorming, writing and designing. Anime is very popular among the youth of today, and the team believe this will be a great medium of storytelling to ensure these voyaging legends are not forgotten.
The anime itself is to help with enlightening and elaborating the history of where we truly come from. And the best medium I know is that we can do it through anime. What KTO Anime desires to do is to gather these stories, these real genealogical stories that everyone has gone through. They're good, they're bad, they're ugly. That's anime.
The Katoa brothers started this passion project in their mother's garage in 2013. It started off as a hobby, and the two were just looking for an interesting story to tell. Their grandparents were of great inspiration and shared the myths and legends of their homeland, inspiring the brothers to start their series off with a Tongan tale.
The protagonist is Ahoiti Tu'itonga. He is the original Tu'itonga king, half Samoan, half Tongan king, to rule Tonga, the Tongan kingdom, and to re-voyage the ancient Pacific that have never been represented. And right now we're just starting with Tonga.
They aspire to represent a diverse demographic and are aiming to collect 3,000 stories from Patreons across the Pacific Islands to be a part of the KTO anime series in the long run. This initiative will ensure the indigenous stories of the people of Te Moana Nui o Kiva are preserved for future generations.
It gives us a bank, it gives the people a bank of real, authentic, genealogical stories to really add context to the brand, to really add historical value to the youth and to the public, because it's really about teaching the public and it's really about teaching the youth where they come from.
The Katoa brothers are currently in Hawaii, where they are applying for Kickstart funding to cover the cost of producing the rest of the first season, which consists of 11 episodes. They are aiming to release the pilot episode online by the end of the year.
The New Zealand Defence Force personnel says they learnt a lot from spending time living in the jungle alongside their Fiji military counterparts during the recent exercise Cartwheel. A contingent of 92 New Zealand personnel took part in the exercise last month up in the tropical mountains and valleys of the Nausori Highlands. It comes after the New Zealand and Fiji governments signed a status of forces agreement in June to further strengthen the defence relationship. Koroi Hawkins spoke with the NZDF Senior National Officer, Major Michael Doughty, about the combat training exercise.
Exercise Cartwheel basically is at the moment a biannual exercise. New Zealand first attended it last year in 2022, and this is our second time taking part of it. Basically, it is a exercise that's led and run by the Fijian Army and the US Army of the Pacific. Last year, Australia, New Zealand and the United Kingdom were invited to attend, and we did, and this year we re-contributed.
Now, I saw some of the pictures. Look, living and camping in the jungle is one of the phrases that I saw. What's that about, and how does that help with, I guess, both New Zealand side, but also the collaborations?
So basically, for the New Zealanders and the Fijians, we had a integrated mortar line and fire support line. Basically, we had New Zealanders and Fijians working and living together, both in camp in Nandi, and then when we deployed up to the Nausori Highlands, where their training area was. The focus of Cartwheel is basically on close country training with the Fijians at the small unit level, and we contributed by assisting with mortar and heavy weapons training. So when we went up to the Nausori Highlands, the men and women were fully integrated with the Fijian Army, and we trained and lived together in the close country as a combined New Zealand and Fijian force.
I understand that last year was more of a display and examples of some of the activities, and this year the training component was a big part of it, was it?
Yes, so last year we live fired with the Fijians, but we hadn't really done much training on those weapon systems with them. So this year we decided to focus on combined and integrated training, which was the focus this time. So there was no live firing on this iteration of Cartwheel.
In general, across the region, are you seeing an increase, I guess, collaboration and working together of this sort across not just Fiji but with other military forces?
Yeah, so with regard to the increased cooperation and increased training exercises, we probably are seeing an uptick in that, particularly across the Southwest Pacific. Obviously, when COVID hit, a lot of the training opportunities halted. So now that we're a year or so out from COVID, we're really starting to redevelop and re-engage in those training activities. Fiji's always been important to us for the New Zealand Defence Force. And it's important that we do these kind of things often to make sure that we can interoperate and work together on operations.
Just sticking to this particular exercise, when is the next round?
Well, Cartwheel 24 will start its initial planning probably the first half or the first quarter of next year. I won't be taking part of that because I will be posted, but it looks like the NZDF contribution will hopefully continue. Like, the men and women thought it was an enjoyable and interesting exercise. It's not very often you get to spend a month in the Fijian highlands practicing your close country skills. The soldiers, the men and women, are getting to live with the Fijians in the jungle and learning how they operate in the jungle was really important. Anecdotally, the Fijians showed them how to live off the land in a way that we can't in New Zealand, how to identify edible foods, wild fruits, and basically how to prepare and cook them, which is not something that we get a chance to practice ever.
Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you very much.
To close off Tuvalu Language Week, I speak with a proud Tuvaluan and Kiribati businesswoman who is the co-founder of a weaving and handicraft store in Suva, Fiji. Since 2018, Emily Umu and her mother have been running Te Raranga, and it's growing from strength to strength. Te Raranga products have been featured at special events such as Fiji Fashion Week. Emily joins me on Pacific Waves. Talofa koe, Emily, tell me about Te Raranga. How did it all start?
Te Raranga is a small family-owned business run by my mom, my two sisters and I. So Te Raranga was formerly known as Island Beauty Handicrafts, and initially it was only mom who was involved in the business. But just 5 years ago, she asked for our help because she noticed plenty businesses were selling online, and she wanted us to set the business up on social media. So to start that off, we thought to change the business name first. And since our business specialized in Tuvaluan and Kiribati styles of weavings, we thought it would be fitting to have a name in the language. So we called our business Te Raranga, which means the weaving. So that's how it started. And what we do is we weave items like laundry baskets, pot plant holders, placemats, table runners, wall hangings, and handheld fans, earrings, and mirrors. And we also sell small Fijian artifacts that we buy off other people, and then we resell it at our shop.
It's timely that we're doing this interview this week, given that it's Tuvalu Language Week here in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. What's your personal connection to Tuvalu?
So my dad is Tuvaluan. Both his parents are both Tuvaluan, and my mom is Kiribati.
Why was it important for you to incorporate both the Tuvaluan and Kiribati community in your business?
I think because we wanted to keep the culture, like with weaving. In terms of weaving, we noticed that a lot of our weavings, or the art of weaving, the Tuvaluan or Kiribati style, it's lost. Especially living in Fiji, we're like third and fourth generation Tuvaluan and Kiribati settlers in Fiji. So our weavings are slowly dying out. So apart from helping our family make a living, we also engage about 10 other women weavers in our local Tuvaluan and Kiribati community that we live in Fiji. It provides as well for them and their families.
You were recently involved in the launch of a mobile payment platform, DuaPay. How has this benefited your business so far?
So our DuaPay has helped our business make sales where we could have lost out on because, some of our customers, they do not have cash on hand to purchase with, and they would just want to use their MasterCard or their Visa card. But the time we didn't have DuaPay, that we would lose out on that sale because that was the only way they could pay.
What are the challenges that you've encountered running your business so far, and how have you overcome them?
So some of the challenges that we face in our business is lack of materials. Sometimes, like for instance, we usually make our signature handheld fans. So sometimes the shelves that we need, the mother of pearl shelves that we need for the product, is not available, or let's say the vow or the fiber that we use to make some of our items, they're not available, and so material shortage is one of the biggest the problems that we face. And other than that, I think that is one that I can think of right now. Some of the we've made a lot of connections, or we've built a lot of positive relationships with other people that we've met along with those who appreciate our products. And it's been really fulfilling to have those connections, because later on in the future they also tell other, maybe their friends and families, how lovely our products are. And it creates more business and more relationships for the future. So I think that's one of the success aspects of our business so far.
That's Pacific Waves for today. To listen back, head over to rnzi.com/programs. We're also on Apple, Spotify and iHeartRadio podcasts. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, so fast 3-4.